Hello, historians! In your lesson preview, you jotted down some places of worship in your community. What did you include? Perhaps Christian churches, Jewish synagogues, Muslim mosques, or Sikh gurdwaras. Anywhere in America, you can practice whatever religion you want, as long as it doesn't harm anyone else. But it hasn't always been that way. As Europeans arrived in the New World, they brought diverse views on religion. Some colonies had a lot of religious freedom, while others didn't. Our guiding questions are: how did views about religion influence colonial politics? How did views about religion influence social values in the colonies? How did minority groups exercise religious freedom in the colonies? Our central question is, how did views about religion during the colonial era shape the ideas of religious freedom in American society? Okay, historians, let's go! When you saw the title of this section, did you think to yourself, aren't religion and politics supposed to stay away from each other? Hey, you two, break it up. In modern America, yeah, but it hasn't always been that way. In fact, religion had a pretty big influence on how colonial governments were formed. Some colonies had a lot of rules limiting religious freedom, while others were more tolerant. Today, we'll look at two examples of restrictive groups, the Puritans and Pilgrims and the Anglicans, and we'll also look at one example of a tolerant group, the Quakers. As you watch, fill in the chart in your PDF with examples of restrictive or tolerant government policies. Let's first examine New England. Two prominent groups in early New England were the Puritans and the Pilgrims. The Puritans sought to purify the state-sponsored Anglican Church in England. The Pilgrims splintered from the Puritans as they wanted to completely reject the Anglican Church rather than simply purify it. As a result of challenging religious authority in England, both Puritans and Pilgrims were persecuted, so they left for New England, seeking a place to worship freely. Their goal was to promote their own church, so they created laws that reflected that desire. This was evident from the first established code in the colonies, the Mayflower Compact. It stated that the Pilgrims' goal was to establish a colony for the glory of God and the advancement of the Christian faith. In New England, the church and state were intertwined. The government was a theocracy, or rule based on religious belief. Decisions regarding the church and community often overlapped. Laws demanded strict obedience to Scripture. Those who refused to comply with Puritan and Pilgrim religious customs often faced expulsion or even execution. Religious values influenced New England's judicial system. Perhaps the most notable example was the Salem witch trials, which occurred in 1692 in Salem, Massachusetts. Another example of restrictive groups were the Anglicans. The Anglican Church was a branch of Protestant Christianity, which was the state religion of England. Some colonies in the middle and southern regions adopted the Anglican Church as their state church for the colony. The Anglican Church was based on a strict hierarchy. This chain of command influenced the formation of colonial leadership. For example, in Virginia, all colonial officials had to be Anglican. Taxes went directly to the state church. Colonial officials appointed church leaders, and laws required all religious services in the colony to follow Anglican procedures. However, not all colonies were so restrictive. Some used their religious views to create a more tolerant government. The founder of Pennsylvania, William Penn, was part of a Christian group called the Quakers. Penn believed that the church and the state needed to stay separate. Quakers also believed that every person could have a direct relationship with God, without direction from church leaders such as priests. For these two reasons, Penn wanted no part of establishing a hierarchical state church. Additionally, Quakers believed in tolerance and equality for all, regardless of religion or background. Penn stated,
"No people can be truly happy if abridged of the freedom of their consciences as to their religious profession and worship."
Penn created a legal code vowing to protect everyone, regardless of their religious beliefs. So even though the church and state were separated, can you see how Penn's Quaker beliefs influenced the law? Let's review. How did views about religion influence colonial politics? Views on religion also influenced social values in the colonies. Let's revisit our three groups. As you watch, fill in the chart in your PDF with examples of restrictive or tolerant social policies. Puritans and Pilgrims placed a high value on morality and believed that people should follow a strict code of behavior. This included abstaining from vices such as drinking, gambling, and swearing, and living a life of frugality and simplicity. The community was tightly knit, and people were expected to prioritize worship and to help each other draw closer to God. This community, however, was exclusive. The Puritans did not embrace those of other faiths and believed that introducing elements that conflicted with their values could negatively affect their community and their relationship with God. Similarly, Anglican colonies promoted exclusive social practices. Catholics, the perceived enemy of Anglicans, and other minority religious groups were generally made unwelcome. Anyone breaking the church's moral code, for example, by being unfaithful to a marriage made, would be ostracized from the community. Just like the church, Anglican colonies tended to form rigid social structures, such as in the Southern plantation system, which relied on aristocratic hierarchies to ensure social power for the elite and the subjugation of indentured servants and enslaved people. On the other hand, religious tolerance also tended to encourage social tolerance. The Quakers were known for their commitment to social justice and worked to address issues such as poverty, slavery, and inequality. They believed in the importance of treating all people with dignity and respect, and worked to create a society that was fair and just. For example, the Pennsylvania Hospital was open to patients of all religious backgrounds. This was a departure from the practice in other hospitals, which were often affiliated with specific religious groups and only admitted patients of that group. Okay, let's review. How did religion influence social values in the colonies? Although Christianity was the dominant religion in the colonies, minority groups existed as well. The restrictive or tolerant characteristics of colonial groups often extended to their policies towards non-Christians. Jewish people were one such example. Despite facing persecution in some parts of colonial America, tight-knit Jewish communities formed in several American cities, including Philadelphia and Pennsylvania, creating a sense of solidarity. Native Americans had diverse religious practices as well, often rooted in the belief in multiple gods and that different aspects of nature held spiritual power. Some colonizers viewed indigenous religions as primitive and suppressed the practice of traditional dances, rituals, and ceremonies. But religious freedom was also important to indigenous people as a way of maintaining their identity and liberty. The Puritans attempted to force conversions of the Wampanoag people to Christianity. On the other hand, Penn promoted good relations with the Lenape, allowing them to worship and live in peace. Many people forced into slavery in the Anglican-dominated southern colonies brought traditional African beliefs with them, which enslavers worked to suppress. Many enslaved people found ways to secretly resist, practicing their religion in hidden places such as the woods or adapting their traditions to incorporate elements of Christianity. So while most minority religious groups faced obstacles to religious freedom, they found ways to ensure that their culture was preserved. Okay, time for our next guiding question. How did minority groups exercise religious freedom in the colonies? As you probably noticed, Christianity, namely Protestant Christianity, dominated colonial America. Despite their differences, most English colonists agreed on this: we worship God, and we respect the authority of the Bible. So it's no wonder that Christianity influenced public policy and community organization. At best, non-Christian faiths took a back seat to Christianity. At worst, colonists banned and attempted to dismantle these practices.
But not here in Pennsylvania. No, sir, not on my watch.
Whoa, didn't see you sneak in here. Thanks, Willie P. You scared me a little bit, but that's fine. No worries, we're cool. And today, Protestant Christianity is still the largest group in the United States. But just think of your community. You likely see a lot more than just Protestant churches. How did we get to that point? Well, we'll have to wait to find out. Until next time, keep making history.